We know there's a Sangha night going on in Krakow at the moment, so they're joining us as a whole centre, which is really great.
Hiya, Nara.
Yes, that's it. It's Yashadeva shouting from the back.
There's also over 30 people on YouTube. We're now live now. So.
Yeah, Sangadara is running a lot of tech at the back there. Thank you. Thanks
to from Edinburgh, are all joining in?
Sangalite from Edinburgh, great. Thank you.
And York.
Yes, good old York. Yeah.
David from Mexico.
Say that again.
David from Mexico.
David from Mexico, exactly. He's running the show, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone who's functioning on tech right now. There's quite a team of us just to make sure that all this is happening well. Where's that? Where's that lovely blue?
Liverpool.
Liverpool, great.
Oh, we've got Shanti Chara.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. There he is. Hey,
Yes.
Shanti Chara.
Where are you? Where were you when we needed someone?
Hiding.
In your lovely flat.
Yes, thank you. But I couldn't resist joining you all this evening. It just felt too important.
So Shanti Chara usually lives here right now, so we're just disappointed not to have him in the room. He's actually in Sheffield.
Vila D from Helsinki.
Lovely, very good to have Helsinki here, coming in from Finland.
Now 170 people on call.
Yeah, Prakasha and Sri Sangha, welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Oh, it's Dhamashuri, who's just been with us here at Adhisthana. Hi. Back in Florida or Maine?
Yeah, we understand. So we're going to start in a second. I should sleep the shrine. So once everyone's settled in the shrine room, we'll just I'll just lead us in saluting the shrine. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Ramaya.
Namo Ramaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Namah.
Namo Namah.
So welcome to all of you that are joining us here at Adhisthana. So in the room at the moment around us, we've got about maybe 50 people, something like that, which is members of the Adhisthana community, members of the residential community, along with members of the College of Public Preceptors, who are all meeting here. And they were due to be having a puja this evening, so they knew they were coming into the shrine room this evening, and then we've hijacked it into this particular event. And I just want to say thank you to Sadajala for instigating this thought of having this sort of evening. And well, all of you, particularly those from Estonia and from Poland, who've been helping us put together content for this evening. Yeah, so my name's Sadanandi, and I'm currently living here at Astana. And we're just going to have a very simple evening just to mark this particular world happening that's going on around us right now. A very sad occasion, but very good to have all of us here together. I know that in the UK at the moment, I think the fundraising has hit 100 million, all happening very fast for the war effort, for people that are suffering right now. I went to a big local department store recently, and they asked me to give £1 to UNICEF, which is a children's charity. And lots of people were giving that £1. And then the big department store was going to match the funds. And I suspect across the UK, that was going to add up to quite a lot of money. So there's huge amounts of money coming in, people wanting to respond very strongly to this event, this thing that's happening right now. And very big welcome to those of you that are going to speak from Europe, from some of those those countries very close in to Ukraine and to Russia. Yeah. So this evening we're going to have a very simple program of a bit of an introduction, and then Sadaloka is going to talk a bit about his experience of his contact with people from Poland and Ukraine, Russia. And then we're going to have the Metta Sutta in various languages. We're going to have a Metta Bhavana led by Amoga Ratna from Berlin, and carry on hearing the Metta Sutta in other language, in Russia, in Russian. And then towards the end, we'll just chant the Maitri mantra, and then everyone in the room will be making an offering of light. And obviously, you make your own offerings if you've got a shrine in front of you. And we're going to try, it won't be as slick as some of our normal sort of shows on Zoom. So what's going to happen is I'm going to move backwards and forwards from this seat and let other people step in. So if anyone's got a reading that's in the room or they need to speak, then just come to this place and just speak from here. Yeah, so we've got we've got a war going on, and it's very close to many people, and there's a lot of people being affected by it, and it's very, very hard to imagine at a distance just what that's like. So this is a very somber evening, although it's very good to see old friends and to meet in harmony and friendship. There's a very somber tone to the evening, and we'll keep it like that. Of course, all you've got to pitch against it in some ways is our response, whether it's in practical ways or just keeping alive something good in the world. That, you know, there is more than just the war. There is good in the world as well, and we've just got to keep that going. It adds up to something. We're not asking for money, just so you know, but I think we can put something in chat right now, and we'll just keep posting it, which is a big international, what would it call it, war effort that from any you can contribute to it. Vardika sent it to us from Estonia, just saying, look, please, if you're going to give money, please give it to this cause. So maybe consider doing that. I know there's a lot of people already offering a lot of money. And I'm sure many people in the order and in our Sangha have already given that. Okay, so I'll move over and let Sadaloka tell us a little bit about his experience, and then he maybe can introduce a few people that are on Zoom to us, okay?
So hello, my name's Sadaloka, and yeah, very good to see you all here joining us. I'm speaking because I've had a long-standing connection with many people from northern Central Eastern Europe over quite a number of years. I first visited Finland and Estonia in 1994 and St. Petersburg in 1997, and got involved with a translation project, translating Dharma texts into Russian. And that led me to the Ukraine. People picked up copies of the Guide to the Buddhist Path on a market stall in parts of the Ukraine. So I ended up visiting Kramatorsk, which has been in the news, very near Donetsk, very much on the front, and then many times to Odessa on the Black Sea, and a number of friends and mitras there. And then when the Civil War broke out, we began to have retreats in Poland based around the Krakow Center, where I also have friends and connections, and had people from Russia and the Ukraine coming to those retreats. So yeah, just feeling a lot of personal connection with people and with places that are very much affected by what's going on now with the war in Ukraine. So there have been many terrible wars and conflicts over the last decades, but it's a real wake-up call, I think, to us all when the wars start to come really close. People we know, places we know start to be affected. It becomes quite shocking and disturbing. In a way, it should be shocking and disturbing wherever there is a war, but human nature being what it is, it does seem that it's only when it really comes close that we wake up to just how shocking and terrible it is. We're all familiar with pictures and stories of refugees, but now the last 2 weeks, there's been 2 million refugees pouring across borders, many of them into Poland, and we'll be hearing, I think, a little about that from our friends in Krakow. So yes, a practical response to the needs, the suffering of those who are affected by the war. Sadanandi mentioned how ways in which we can actually give financial help, and I know in Poland people are giving a lot of very practical help. But tonight we're trying to do something a bit different. As well as that, we're trying to bring the perspective of metta and the wisdom of the Buddhas to this time, to what's going on. Trying to connect with metta, loving kindness together in a way to help us find the clarity, strength, love, generosity that will enable us to collectively and individually respond from the very best in us to what is happening now and what's going to be unfolding over the next week, months, whatever. So it's very much looking at how we can find that inner strength to really meet the world as it's now unfolding from the very best in us. And turning to the Buddha's teaching on metta, on loving kindness. In the Metta Sutta, one of the teachings of the Buddha that have been passed down to us, he sets out metta, loving kindness, as a path to enlightenment, a path that can take one all the way to the deepest wisdom and compassion. So we're going to now ask Jnanavacha to read the Metta Sutta in English, and then we're going to be going over to Krakow. But first of all, let's just hear the Metta Sutta from Jnanavacha.
Karineya Metta Sutta. If you know what is truly good for you and understand the possibility of reaching a state of perfect peace, then this is how you need to live. Start as a capable person who is upright, really upright, gently spoken, flexible, and not conceited. Then become contented and happy with few worries and an uncomplicated life. Make sure your sense experience is calm and controlled. Be duly respectful and don't hanker after families or groups. And avoid doing anything unworthy that wiser people would criticize. Then meditate like this. May all beings be happy and feel secure. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. And think of every living thing without exception, the weak and the strong, from the smallest to the largest, whether you can see them or not, living nearby or far away, beings living now or yet to arise. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. May no one deceive or look down on anyone anywhere for any reason, whether through feeling angry or through reacting to someone else. May no one want another to suffer. As strongly as a mother, perhaps risking her life, cherishes her child, her only child, develop an unlimited heart for all beings. Develop an unlimited heart of friendliness for the entire universe, sending metta above, below, and all around, beyond all narrowness, beyond all rivalry, beyond all hatred. Whether you are staying in one place or traveling, sitting down or lying down, in all your waking hours, rest in this mindfulness, which is known as like living in heaven right here and now. In this way, you will come to let go of views, be spontaneously ethical, and have perfect insight. And leaving behind craving for sense pleasures, from the rounds of rebirth, you will finally be completely free.
So thank you, Jnana Vacha. So we're now going to go over to Krakow, where they're having their Sangha night. We're going to have a few words from Satajala, and then Shantaka is going to read the Metta Sutta again in Polish. And then we're going to hear from Nityabandhu, who's going to say a little bit about some of our friends in Ukraine, who he's been in touch with in recent times. So over to Krakow.
You're muted.
Okay, I think you can hear us now. Yeah, so welcome everybody. My name is Tadajala, and you can't hear us too?
Okay, we can now. Hear you now.
Okay,
How about now?
yes, okay. So once again, welcome everybody. My name is Tadajala, and I'm speaking to you from Sangaloka Buddhist Center that is based in Krakow in Poland. And we have a Sangha night here, so there is, you can't see all of us, but there's 14 of us in this place, in the shrine room. And Nichibandu is showing now all the other people. Yeah, so just a few words personally from me and from on behalf of the Sangha. So Krakow Buddhist Center is in Poland, and Poland shares the border with the Ukraine. And Krakow is one of the biggest city that is near to Ukraine. So we're not under attack. We're not, people here are not being killed as in Ukraine, but we feel also strongly affected by this situation. We receive many refugees, and we're happy that we can do it, who are fleeing to our country. But sometimes, I speak personally here, but I think maybe many people share it, that the amount of help that is needed can be overwhelming. But the wonderful thing about this is that the response of the Polish society to this situation, as Sadaloka mentioned, there is a lot of practical help that is happening right now in our country. So people are offering enormous amount of generosity, and that is heartwarming. And that generosity comes from many, many individuals who are just organizing themselves help for refugees, but also it's happening on the levels of local government. Companies are helping, hotels are taking refugees in. Some people from our Sangha also took refugees to their houses. And today as a center, we made a decision to turn our center into a place where refugees can temporarily come and stay for a night, because there are many people still waiting at the train station without homes. So personally, I'm still trying to find a response to the situation. In the first 2 days, I realized that I need more metta. I noticed myself tipping into near enemies of the Brahma Viharas. So that gave me a clue that I need to be present with my own mind and with my states of mind, that I need to turn towards metta and compassion even strongly. But also what I realized, that I need my community. So I'm really, really grateful that we are meeting here today together with all of you. And it gives me a lot of support, and I think it gives us here in Poland a sense of international Sangha coming together. And that's very, very moving. So thank you very much for being here together, and let's do that again. Thank you. I also want to say I really appreciate the effort that Adhisthana made too, and all people involved to put this event together. Thank you. And now Shantika reading the Karaniyametta Sutta in Polish.
Ścieżka nieograniczonej miłości do wszystkich istot. Jeśli już przekonałeś się, co ci naprawdę służy i wiesz, że możliwe jest osiągnięcie stanu doskonałego spokoju, to postępuj tak. Zacznij od wykształcenia w sobie zaradności. abyś potrafił się odnaleźć w każdej sytuacji. Bądź etyczny, prawdziwie etyczny. Mów łagodnie i nie bądź zarozumiały. Odnajdź wewnętrzne zadowolenie i szczęście. Porzuć zmartwienia i żyj prostym życiem. Uspokój zmysły. Miej na nie baczność. Odnoś się do innych z szacunkiem i nie szukaj potwierdzenia ze strony rodziny ani żadnej grupy. Nie rób nic, co ludzie, których uważasz za mądrzejszych od siebie, uznaliby za niegodne. Następnie medytuj tak. Niech wszystkie istoty będą szczęśliwe i bezpieczne. Niech wszystkie staną się szczęśliwe w głębi serca. I pamiętaj o każdej istocie bez wyjątku. O słabych i silnych. Od najmniejszych do największych. Czy można je zobaczyć, czy też nie? Tych w pobliżu i tych daleko. Żyjących teraz i tych, które dopiero się urodzą. Niech wszystkie istoty staną się szczęśliwe w głębi serca. Niech nikt nie oszukuje, ani nie poniża nikogo. Nigdzie i z jakiejkolwiek przyczyny. Czy to w złości, czy w emocjach, niech nikt nie życzy innemu źle. Jak matka, czasem z narażeniem życia, dba o swe dziecko, swe jedyne dziecko, tak staraj się od serca traktować wszystkie istoty. Bądź jak przyjaciel dla całego świata. Ślij metta w górę, w dół i dookoła, bez ograniczeń, ponad spory i rywalizacje, ponad wszelką nienawiść. Czy pozostajesz w jednym miejscu? Czy jesteś w podróży? Siedzisz czy leżysz? Pozostań w tej świadomości, która jest jak życie w niebie, tu i teraz. W ten sposób pozbędziesz się wszelkich poglądów, będziesz spontanicznie etyczny i osiągniesz doskonały wgląd. Pozostawisz za sobą głód przyjemności zmysłowych i w końcu uwolnisz się z koła ponownych narodzin.
Okay, shall I go ahead? Okay. So my name is Nitya Bandhu. Hello, everybody. Can't see you all at once, but there seems to be, I don't know, maybe 200 of us or more. And thank you to all who've spoken before. Sadaloka asked me to say something about our friends in the Ukraine, because I think they can't be here. I'll just check, just in case. Sergey, ты здесь? Dima? I don't think so, because yesterday I spoken to one of them, Sergey, in Odessa, in Ukraine. He said he actually'd like to be here, but at this time of the day or of the night, it's. Oh, we've got someone here, Sergey from Kiev. So in any case, we weren't sure or whether anybody from Ukraine could be here or could actually speak English. So in a way, I'm speaking on behalf of one of them, but in a sense, maybe I speak for, hopefully, for them. Sadaloka spoke of his history of how he got to know people in this part of the world, in Poland, in Russia, Finland, Estonia, and also the Ukraine, and how he eventually how the idea came up of organizing retreats in Poland, because it wasn't possible to do them, or would have been too difficult, too dangerous to organize them in the Ukraine. And that's how I actually got to know the guys who came from. It was actually mostly guys and one woman at that time, coming mostly from Odessa in the Ukraine, and later also from Kiev. Once or twice we had someone from Moscow as well. And I met. That's how I met Sergei. And I remember. You know, in the early days, once we were going to a retreat, and I was in a car driving, and so we were going from Krakow to the retreat place here in Poland, and I had two guys at the back of my car, two guys from the Ukraine, and at some point they started arguing with each other about the situation, the political situation. And it was, you know, they were I mean, the strong guys seriously arguing. But at the same time, it wasn't hostile, it wasn't bad, but it was very strong. And at some point, I said to them that, guys, this is like having the Ukraine in my car. Like you're like two sides of the argument. And then eventually they actually agreed on something and were very happy. I won't tell you what this was, but at that point, I said to them, and now I can actually see what makes me different from you as a Polish guy. After they were able to agree on something, and I knew I couldn't. But anyway, this is years ago. That's how I met Sergei. That's how I met the other guys for the first time. And the situation has changed quite dramatically, obviously, even though the war has been going on since 2014 there. And I exchanged texts with Sergei on Thursday, so that's Thursday nearly 2 weeks ago. So that's when the war started, on Thursday early morning, and I exchanged texts with him in the afternoon, and he said to me that he had a meeting with someone, with a friend from Odessa on Wednesday evening. And he already on Thursday, he said that meeting felt like it was in another era, like it wasn't the previous day, like it was, you know, like it was years ago. And since we managed to speak a few times, and I want to tell you, actually, I want to quote him first, and I want to tell you a little bit about, in a way, you know, from Wednesday to Thursday, it was already an era, but it also for him, for them, it must have felt like the whole world changed and has been changing, and things have been happening so much faster. Life, but also spiritual practice seems to have been so much faster and so much more intense. In fact, during our last conversation yesterday, we had a very, very good talk, Sergei and I, and really close and heartfelt. And I said to him that it seems like your practice now is 100 times stronger than it was before the war, because you have to face these questions and decisions. I'll mention in a minute what I mean exactly. But first, I just want to quote from Sergei being a very sort of organized person. He, apart from the conversation we had, he also sent me three sort of points he thought I might use. So I'll just read you the first one.
The good thing is that Odessa is calm at the moment. Yes, we hear explosions. This is the air defense system at work. Sometimes a distant shootout is heard. Saboteurs are being caught somewhere, but there are no active hostilities. We live a few kilometers from the international airport. Sadaloka was in it when he flew to Odessa. This is a very dangerous neighborhood. You can understand why, meaning being close to that airport. I somehow analyzed my feelings when I heard a few loud bangs very strongly recently. There were two feelings: terrible fear and then hatred. And that was all. So man is an animal, after all, and he is guided by the most ancient instincts. Metta comes later, when you realize that the danger has passed. For some reason, it is like that. And when we had these conversations, Sergei and I, over the last week, we spoke. Well, this concerning what he said, he told me about this, what he noticed, that there is this terrible sort of animal fear and hatred, which are the strongest emotions that come first, and then metta comes only later. And but I noticed a kind of almost like a journey over this last days that he's been going through, that, you know, it's in this atmosphere that's happening. It would be so easy just to give in to those emotions, fear and hatred, and many people have, and kind of it's kind of understandable. But I've noticed him, you know, in these very difficult circumstances, he's been really trying to practice metta and non-violence. And at some point when we spoke, he thought when he'd be called up to the army soon, he said he would go. He wouldn't resist it. But in our recent conversation, he said he wouldn't. And, you know, that might have been just 2 or 3 days between these two conversations, but there was like a whole era and a whole world of things happening for him. And I had, in the first conversation we had, he asked me, he said, can I ask you advice? Shall I do it or not? When I'm called up, shall I take arms and go and fight or not? And, you know, that moment when he asked me that, this was a very, very important moment, I think, for both of us. And I don't want to talk about myself here, but there is a whole big thing that this question from him activated. And it was active already before, the question of, you know, how non-violent I actually am, and, you know, how deep the non-violence and the metta actually goes. And he faced the same question, and I told him that I can't tell you because I'm here and you're there. And during that conversation, he said he would go and defend the city if he had to. And I could understand that. But when he, in our conversation yesterday, he said he wouldn't. It's not about arguments pro and con. It's not on that sort of level. It's something much deeper. And I could see he's gone through something in terms of his practice, and he's arrived at that decision. And it's a very difficult decision, partly because he's got both in himself. Like he said, like he very you know, like he admitted, wrote in his text, hatred, fear, and metta, but he chose metta, and is very difficult, and it's very courageous in so many ways, because it's easy to be a pacifist when there is no war, but what do you do when there actually is war? And he's chosen metta, and I've seen him actually before on Facebook. He's very courageously just representing his standpoint, and he was attacked for it by people. Like, he said he wouldn't fight and so on. Some people actually applauded it as well. And he said, he wrote to me in one of his points as well, that we don't fight the Russians. It's, you know, we fight something else. It's sort of some nasty things that are everywhere. And also he said he could understand the Russian soldiers, because he was a Soviet soldier once as a young man. He was actually in Germany as part of the Soviet army, and he knows what it was like, especially when you're 18 or 20 and your head is full of the war propaganda, and you cannot disobey an order. So he said he doesn't actually hate them, but he's gone through that whole journey. And when he told me actually yesterday that he wouldn't take the arms, I just felt so relieved. And you know, I can't explain that. I couldn't understand him if he chose the other thing, but he chose this, and I just felt not happy, but so relieved for him. And somehow that feeling makes me feel that he's made the right decision for himself. I think that's. I hope I've done justice to Serioja and also to the others. And I just want to say, I you know, in those conversations, just contacting Sergei in this last few days, I just felt a deep respect that he's not a kind of fair weather Buddhist. He's actually trying to practice in extremely strong, extremely challenging situation, and he's not, you know, he's faithful to the Dharma. Yes, thank you.
So yeah, thank you all from Krakow, Sadajala, Shantika, Nityabandhu, and thank you for speaking for Sergei and telling us of his journey. So yes, the war is very close for people in Poland. For friends in Estonia, the shadow of the war also hangs very heavily. You know, they have a very different history to us in the UK, and I know they feel very, very strongly what is happening and the shadow of it. So we're going to go now to meet Jan Akara in Tallinn, who's going to say a few words, and then we're also going to hear from him the Metta Sutta in Estonian. So we're hearing the voice of Metta in these different languages coming across to us. Thank you, Jan Akara.
Thank you, Sadaloka. My name is Jan Akara, and there is sitting beside me my wife, Herdis. And there is one more person from Estonia, from Tallinn. This is Vadaka. So actually we have 3 people from Estonia right now attending this meeting. So I was asked to say some words from Estonia in relation to current situation. Estonia regained independence 30 years ago. We are proud that this happened as a singing revolution without violence. Estonians are very clearly aware that to live in a free and democratic country is a privilege. The totalitarian regime in Soviet Union is still very vivid in our memories. I never forget how my father was sent against his will to Chernobyl to clean up the mess after the nuclear plant disaster, and my mother-in-law telling me how she was sent to Siberia with the family when she was just 10 years old. My father came back from Chernobyl. The only causality was a brain tumor needing operation, but my wife Herdis has never seen her grandmother and grandfather who died in Siberia. It is also very truth that only Free Estonia made it possible for me to study and practice Buddhism and become an order member in Triratna. This is a real taste of freedom. Today, we face the reality that there is a war in Ukraine. This is very unfortunate that Putin decided to start the war against free and independent Ukraine just on the Estonian Independence Day. This makes the situation in Ukraine even more significant for people in Estonia. Being clearly aware of this terrible situation, our hearts are full of compassion seeing the suffering of the people in Ukraine. We try to help and support the Ukrainians by every means, materially and psychologically. Since many of us have friends or relatives in Ukraine, the emotions can be very strong. So do we. My wife has a cousin, Ilya, and his family, wife, daughter, and her 4-year-old daughter in Ukraine. They lived close to Kiev and fled from their home when the war started. Their future is very unclear. But there is also another side. What about the Russian soldiers invading Ukraine? There are many young boys carrying out the military service and often misorientated by Putin's propaganda. How to help them? How to make them understand the things as they really are? Having a son at the same age, my heart is full of contradictions, compassion, and the sense of helplessness to change that situation. Like Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara in agony, seeing how little he was able to diminish suffering in the world, if at all. The only thing I know for sure is that hatred will never cease from more hatred. Humankind has future only when we learn to accept the right of peoples to freedom and self-determination without violence. The war in Ukraine is a symbol for how precious are those values and how difficult it can be to defend those values. Let's hope that all people everywhere in all countries will find the kindness and wisdom in their hearts and minds, and let us hope that this understanding gives the strength to stop the war now and forever. I will finish with the words by Arvo Pärt to the people of Ukraine. Dear friends in Ukraine, dear colleagues, they're all fighting for your home at the price of your life. We bow before your bravery, bravery in the face of nearly unbearable suffering. We are with you as much as we are able to. All that is left to us is a lump in our throats and tears and prayers. Words have begun to lose their meaning. Forgive us. Forgive us for failing to protect you from a disaster unimaginable in our time. Long live Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. Thank you for listening. And now Herdis will read the Karenina Metta Sutta in Estonia.
Sõbralikkuse suutra. Missugune peaks olema sihipärane, et leiaks rahu? Võimekas ja sirge, üliväga sirge, viisakas ja leebe, üldse mitte kõrk, taltunud ja vähenõudlik, mitte eriti toimekas ja lihtne, rahunenud võimetega ja arukas, malbe ja suguvõsasse mitte kiindunud. Ta ei tee midagi niisugust, mida teised targad taunivad. Ta mõtleb, olgu kõik olendid õnnelikud ja hirmuta. Viibigu nad kõik õnnes. Missugused ka ei oleks olendid, kas rahutud või tasakaalukad, kas pikad või suured või keskmised või lühikesed või väikesed, kas nähtavad või nähtamatud, kas asuvad nad kaugel või lähedal, kas on nad juba olemas või veel sündimata. Viibigu nad kõik õnnes. Ärgu keegi tehku teisele halba ega solvaku mingilgi viisil ning ärgu vihas või vimmas soovigu kellelegi kannatust. Nagu ema kaitseb oma last, ainukest last elu hinnaga, nõnda avardagu ta oma meel mõõtmatuks, et kõiki olendeid hõlmata. Avardagu ta oma meel mõõtmatuks, et suhtuda sõbralikult kõigesse maailmas. Kõigesse, mis on üleval, all ja ümberringi. Olgu ta kiindumuseta, vihkamiseta ja vaenuta. Seistes, kõndides või istudes või unetuna lamades, pidagu ta meeles. See ongi, nagu öeldud, taevalik eluviis. Ja kui ta on lahti saanud vaadetest ning on kõlbeline ja näeb õigesti ning on saanud üle ka ihast naudingute järele, siis ei sünni ta enam uuesti.
So thank you very much, Janaka and Herdis. Lovely to hear from you both. So now I'm going to ask Amogaratna, who you'll notice from his voice is English, but he's actually spent at least the last 20 years, is it? 21. The last 21 years in Berlin. And he's going to lead us now in a special Metta Bhavana, so probably about 20-25 minutes. After the Metta Bhavana finishes, Nityabandhu, would you be willing to read the Metta Sutta in Russian? Yes? Great, thanks. So we'll have a Metta Bhavana, the Metta Sutta in Russian, and then we'll chant the Maitri mantra. And people here will be making offerings of candles. Please make your offerings on your shrines at home as well. And when the chanting finishes, we'll just end in silence. So if you have thoughts, thanks, whatever, you can put that in the chat, but we won't unmute at the end. We'll just end with the chanting and a reflective metaphor silence. So hand over now to Amogaratna.
Gosh. Yes, Sadaloka asked me to say a few words about my experience in Berlin in the last couple of weeks. I arrived here yesterday after a comfortable 12-hour journey from Berlin. It's quite leisurely. I flew with EasyJet. EasyJet had a little collection for UNICEF, collecting for relief work in Ukraine. And I'm just so aware of my privileged life. I think our generation, my generation, the post-war West Europeans especially, we've been so privileged to live in a time of peace in Europe. And that it contrasts, my journey yesterday contrasted to the journeys of so many, well, we've heard 2 million people who've been fleeing the Ukraine in the last weeks. In Berlin, I've been shocked, as everybody have, just to see the films, the photographs, as we all have, of the war, but also in Berlin, 10,000 refugees are arriving every day at the main railway station. So it's very, very present in Berlin. And it is, of course, it's the major topic for everybody in Europe at the moment. So in Berlin, there's a general sense of disbelief. How could this happen? And I'm very conscious, having lived in Berlin, how war, because of the experience of Germany and Berlin in particular, war has been, it's marked in the consciousness of the population. So as number one topic of conversation, the question is, what can we do? And of course, we've heard also today from several people, there's a general sense of helplessness, and I don't know the answer. People ask me, what can I do? How can we respond? And of course, giving money is one way, giving our pounds in the supermarkets and so on. But for me, I've decided Metta Bhavana, I need to do more Metta Bhavana. That's the only response, in a sense. If we don't do Metta Bhavana, we end up, or I can speak for myself, I'll end up in a state of horrified anxiety. Fear, that's the response. But I think it needs to be balanced. Metta Bhavana needs to be balanced with an awareness of how privileged our generation is to have lived in a time where war has not been the norm in Western Europe. We've had such a luxury of a long period of peace, especially in Western Europe. So all war is a horrible thing. There are no winners. So we're going to do a Metta Bhavana now. It's going to be in 3 stages. So I'm going to ring a bell. I'll lead a little bit. So we're going to, in the first stage, we'll develop metta for ourselves, as usual. We'll connect with that sense of loving kindness, as it's been described in the Metta Sutta. And in the second stage, we'll develop metta for all those directly and indirectly involved in the war. In a sense, we're all indirectly involved, but more those are directly involved. And I shall lead that through as well. Those who have fled, our friends and acquaintances that we know or know of, the refugees, the soldiers, the volunteers, and then we shall develop metta, we'll broaden the metta out to include all beings. And for about 20 minutes. So we just arrive. We'll let the words that have been spoken so far settle, become just aware of where we are, of our feelings and emotions, our thoughts. And being aware perhaps of that sense of helplessness, or perhaps hope, anger, hatred even. becoming aware of whatever we happen to be, whatever we're experiencing. And within this experience, looking for connecting with a sense of love. Loving kindness, metta. The metta bhavana. And first of all, metta for ourselves. And if we notice that we're drifting, simply coming back to that sense of well-wishing and love for ourselves. and staying with this sense of metta, of loving kindness, we bring to mind those directly involved in the war in the Ukraine, friends and acquaintances, or those we know personally, or perhaps those we know of, individuals. We might remember faces of individual people, men, women, or children that we've seen in the films, the photographs in the media. Hundreds of thousands, millions of civilians. Caught up in the terrible atrocities of war. Those who've been forced to flee, the millions of refugees. And even more who have remained. Sending them our love, our well-wishing. And the emergency service workers. And countless volunteers. And of course, the soldiers. Professional soldiers, conscripted soldiers, volunteers, many are very young, confused, in fear. And of course, hundreds of thousands of people who've been separated from their loved ones, who have lost loved ones to the war, those who've been directly affected, wounded, and also the many town and government officials dealing as best they can with the situation. And of course, the two presidents of the countries most involved, Zelensky and Putin, let our metta reach them too. And finally, we broaden our metta, loving kindness, out to include ever more living beings, not just those directly affected by the war. All those of us around the world watching, so to speak, from a distance. And allowing the metta to expand real beings be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. And may all beings be free.
Asked him to, like,
Okay. We'll hear the Karaniya Metta Sutta in Russian now. It would be better, of course, if it was read by a native speaker, Russian and Ukrainian, but we couldn't find a Ukrainian version, probably doesn't exist, and we weren't sure if a native Russian speaker would be here tonight because of the curfew they've got. So I'll read it the best I can. Карания Метта Сутта. Путь любящей доброты. Если вы знаете, что действительно хорошо для вас, и понимаете возможность достижения состояния совершенного покоя, тогда вы должны вести свою жизнь следующим образом. Прежде всего, будьте честны и спокойны в разговоре, уступчивы и не тщеславны. Затем будьте удовлетворены всем и счастливы. Живите без забот и просто. Убедитесь, что ваши чувственные переживания спокойны и сдержаны. Будьте должным образом уважительны и избавьтесь от жажды иметь семью или сторонников. Избегайте того, за что вас будут упрекать более мудрые. Затем медитируйте так. Пусть все будут счастливы и чувствуют себя в безопасности. Пусть все существа обретут счастье в глубине своего сердца. Подумайте о всех живых существах без исключения, слабых и сильных, от самых маленьких до самых больших, видимых и невидимых. Рядом ли они или далеко? Живут ли они сейчас или только появятся в будущем? Пусть все существа в глубине своего сердца обретут счастье. Пусть никто не обманывает и не смотрит свысока на любого другого по любой причине. Пусть никто не причинит другому страданию, испытывая гнев или противодействуя кому-либо другому. Так же сильно, как мать, порой рискуя собственную жизнью, лелеет свое дитя, свое единственное дитя. Развивайте безграничную сердечную любовь ко всем живым существам. Развивайте безграничное дружелюбие ко всей Вселенной, посылая дружелюбие вверх, вниз, повсюду, без ограничений, соперничества или ненависти. Остаетесь ли вы на одном месте или путешествуете, сидите или лежите во все часы бодрствования, оставайтесь в этом осознании, которое известно как высшее пребывание здесь и сейчас. Так вы оставите все воззрения, обретете спонтанную нравственность и совершенное постижение. Оставив позади страстные желания чувственных удовольствий, вы полностью освободитесь от круговорота перерождений.
Om Maitri Maha Maitri Maitri Swaha Om Maitri
Oh, my tree, my tree, Swaha. 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 Oh, my tree, Swaha. Oh, my tree, Swaha. Oh, my tree, Swaha. Oh, my tree, 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 Swaha. Oh, my tree, Oh, my tree, my tree is one. Oh, my tree, my tree is one. Oh, my tree, my tree is one.
Yeah, so we'll just leave now in silence with that mantra ringing in our ears, and just all of you, just please take the support from this evening in whatever way you can. Each one of you making the decisions that you need to make, and please know that from all of us at Adistana, from the College of Public Preceptors, and from all of us across Europe and worldwide, we're all watching and sending you whatever strength we can.